James lost sense of himself after a long battle with depression. He couldn't seem to pick the pieces up after multiple failed relationships in succession. The people he dated were dark, sometimes even malicious. He attracted a lot of narcissists, and that was because he was gifted. People often gravitate towards empathetic or gifted in some way. Why, though? He always asked himself. He checked out of his normal life after a stint in the big house. How did he get into that situation, you might ask yourself? Well, before we get into that, let's get to know James a little better. You see, James is the type of man who is giving. That's not his issue. His issue is that he gives to the point of self-sacrifice. He had no real perception of boundaries at all. And this is what attracted a lot of those people to him in the first place. This sadly set James up for a long life of hardships in every relationship he would enter until he broke that karmic cycle. James had to learn not only how to set boundaries, but what proper boundaries are, and with whom they should be enforced. Here's where life got tricky, because there was no one around James who would teach him how to live independently. Everyone around him was accustomed to using him for his gifts, while simultaneously manipulating him into believing he wasn't even gifted, but rather a burden to everyone. James had one friend most of his life who always showed up for him. Sometimes even when his family didn't, this friend would. James had a great deal of respect for this friend and would have done anything for him. And yeah, for James, that even meant going to jail because of his loyalty. But even that loyalty was eventually weaponized against him. The friendship ultimately collapsed when the friend revealed his true colors. That ending was bitter. But in hindsight, it was likely necessary for the both of them. Now that we got a little backstory on James, let's dive into this big house stint. During this stint, James found himself in 23-hour-a-day lockdown due to repeated involvement in fights. He accepted his fate and began reading intensively over the next 1,351 days of solitude. After he was released, returned to his family home, he struggled to reassemble fragments of his life and fell into depression once again. Those around him took full advantage of this and began using psychological manipulation on James, confusing him and gradually reshaping him into someone easier to control. There are many individuals involved in this, including people paid to participate in the dynamic. This became, in James' experience, a real-life Truman Show scenario, where his entire community appearing to participate in a narrative he wasn't even fully aware of. During this time, James was living vicariously through others online and having online relationships with people just to find joy in his life again. This is where he began attracting the wrong attention and thus became the catalyst for this chapter in his life. There were many individuals involved. He attracted covens, gangs, blue-collar criminals, various organized and dangerous groups, while spending much of his life online, playing games, goofing off. And these people were not attempting to be his friend. Some of them were actively attempting to assassinate him. They had coordinated networks embedded in multiple systems and institutions. He learned people within positions of judges and police, even military personnel, were involved in different capacities. He learned scientists and chemists were using professional influence to manipulate medical records and prescriptions. Postal workers were tampering with mail, and multiple infrastructure systems surrounding him were being interfered with. He learned grocery store workers were observing him and his diet and potentially tampering with his food. Pharmacies and dispensaries were compromised around him that he visited, and financial and legal systems were being influenced in ways designed to undermine him. And in his understanding at this time, he found that life insurance policies were being taken out on him and others with the intention of profiting from harm or destabilization, whether through psychological collapse, engineered crisis, or induced self-destruction. These groups, in his view, they targeted people with gifts, and mostly vulnerable women with children, for exploitation and financial gain. It nearly cost James his life getting entangled with all of this. He barely managed to break free after multiple attacks on his safety and stability. James has learned a great deal in his time of solitude and has begun rebuilding his life. He is now focused on helping others who have developed toxic patterns similar to his own and striving to promote awareness around manipulation and coercive control.